Welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. 5 games to talk about on this Tuesday afternoon as the schedule's kind of flipped around. We've got the heavier slates on like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it seems like, and then the shorter slates Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, at least balanced. So not complaining, but I am Jake Hari. I'm joined by Slim Cliffy, Michael Clifford. What's up, man?
I'm like, you're right about the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday things. And I think that's what's kind of throwing me off because like literally right before the show, I made a comment about, chalk on short slates. And you're like, last night was a 10 gamer, man. I was like, oh yeah, last night it was a Monday night 10 gamer for the first time, like maybe ever, other than like a special holiday that might happen or something.
Yeah. The only other like slate that I feel like is that big on a Monday or a Wednesday is like right before American Thanksgiving. And like, so they do like all the games on Monday and Wednesday, but we've had a bunch of these recently. I've been doing some Monday shows with Terry and it's like 8 games here, 10 games here, like 6, 7 for another one. So, nice to change things up a little bit. Nothing we can't adapt to in what's been a crazy 375 days, 80 days, something along those lines. But hopefully, we'll get back to normal pretty soon here. You want to tell the people how you did? Because it was not pretty for me.
Yeah, I started the slate pretty well because I had a fair amount of Kreider and Kakko. I actually had some Kakko last night too. Just had them in the wrong lineups. Vegas, I didn't have any Vegas too. I was trying to fade the chalk. And when you fade the chalk and the chalk smashes, bad things tend to happen to you. So just one of those nights where I was on most of the right teams, but I didn't have that one chalk filler that had a great night. And because of that, I didn't have a great night. But you just brush those off. And you go right to the next slate. And that's the beauty of this season of NHL is like, even sometimes in previous years, if you have a bad Tuesday, you go into a Wednesday, maybe there's only 1 or 2 games or something like that. Not this year. This year, if you have a bad night on a 9-gamer, you got an 8-gamer the next night, or a 5-gamer or a 6-gamer or something. So lots of chances to get right back in the game. And, with all the uncertainty and all that we've had this year, I'd say that's kind of one of the bright spots of this NHL season is that, if you want to take time off, you can take time off like you have in any other season. But if you want to stick on the grind day in and day out, that option is actually there for you this year for the first time, not having to play showdown slates on Friday nights and stuff like that. So I'm kind of enjoying it in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, every day is the same, but as long as we get 5+ games most days, feels like something that we can handle. So yeah, I agree with you. I feel like I haven't had a lot of, like we did have a couple weeks right at the beginning, I think, where we had like 13 games, 2 games, then 14, then 1, then 15. But after that, it's been pretty much smooth sailing, balanced slates throughout each week. So yeah, definitely a bright spot there. I got smoked last night. As you guys probably saw, if you check me in lineup study, don't look at last night. It was ugly. I did not have as much Vegas 2 as I would have liked, especially because they came in a little bit lower owned than we were expecting. And then I think the Rangers and Vegas was a pretty chalk lineup construction. So I didn't really get to a lot of that. But that's all right. Moving on to tonight. Congrats to Kyle, who binked the Q seat. He is an NFL guy at Awesemo.com. So congrats to Kyle. I don't know if he watches these, but he posted a screenshot. Doesn't talk too much in the hockey chat. Just posted a casual screenshot of him with the $15K value of the seat. Just one lineup in there. He didn't even need the 2, and beat out 73 other entries, including 2 of mine. So he crushed it. I think he had Colorado 1. I can't remember who his secondary stack was, but nice job there. Congrats to all the winners. And we're going to move it on to tonight's slate. But first, if you guys could help us grow the channel, the easiest way to help us out is just to subscribe to the channel. You can also drop us a like. That makes me and Cliffy look good. And we've got a bunch of NBA stuff coming on. So when you do subscribe to the channel, and you hit the notification bell, you're going to get notified every time there's an NBA show. There's PGA on earlier today. We'll have MMA. I believe that's on Thursday nights. NASCAR. We've got college basketball shows right now. We've got everything. So subscribing is only going to help you out, helps us out a ton. And we are sponsored, as we are regularly, by JockMKT. They've turned daily fantasy sports into a stock exchange. If you guys haven't heard, they allow you to buy and sell shares of players in real time with real money and guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of the night. Our producer, Tyler, who has been playing some on JockMKT, I'm sure is very excited to get back after some time off. Dylan Larkin's on the slate for him, so we know Tyler's going to be pumped up. They've got daily markets in NBA, NHL, and PGA. And if you download the app, you can get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code Awesemo20 for a $20 deposit bonus on your first deposit. Again, this is exclusive to only the Awesemo community, so make sure you take advantage today. Let's get started. Oh, there we go. I forgot about that. It's been a while since Tyler's produced a show I've been on, so forgot about the bell. Glad you guys got to hear that one. Let's go to the Devils and the Flyers. We've got a 2.6 implied total for the Devils, 3.4 for the Flyers. Mackenzie Blackwood and Carter Hart are your expected goalies. Maybe Wedgwood for the Devils. I'm not sure. We don't know a lot about tonight's slate in terms of who's actually going to be playing with who. So I'm sure Cliffy's going to mention that a number of times. But is this one of the games that we're struggling to find lines on?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, this is definitely one of those games where we're not going to know lines. Philly played last night, and on back-to-backs, there are two more teams later this slate that we'll get to that are on back-to-backs as well. Philly's on a back-to-back. On back-to-backs, teams don't skate at morning skate, and when teams don't skate at morning skate, you usually don't get lines until warm-ups. Maybe we'll get them because the coach does a media availability about an hour before warm-up, so maybe sometime around 5:30 or something like that, we might get some sort of line of confirmation. But the Devils didn't skate this morning either. We don't know what their lineup is going to be. And the thing with Philly, why it's such a big deal with Philly not knowing their line combinations, even though they played last night, is that Couturier is admittedly injured. The team said that. And it's apparently a hip injury, and hip injuries in hockey are not a good thing. Just look at, Tyler Seguin, Nikita Kucherov had a hip injury as well, or I think so. Yeah. Like these, I'm not saying that they all have the same injury, but we've seen hip injuries keep players out for months. And we've seen players play through it. Like Seguin played through it. Not Seguin, Jamie Benn played through something like that, like 3 or 4 years ago. And look how long it took him to get right. It took him basically 2 years to recover. So like, again, we don't know if Couturier is that bad, but the fact that it's a hip injury and the fact that he was basically, a warm-up addition last night tells me he's nowhere close to healthy. And in fact, if you look at the top line, like it hasn't really been super elite this year. Like 54.8% expected goal share for Van Riemsdyk, Couturier, and Farabee. Like it's good, but this isn't what we're typically used to seeing from Sean Couturier. Like we're used to seeing like 95th percentile outcomes from Couturier. And we're just not really seeing that from him so far this year. Even if you look at his defensive impacts, isolated from the rest of the team. This is by Evolving Hockey, by the way, which is a wonderful stats website that we use and you can subscribe to if you want. His expected goals against impact is right around league average this year, that's not anywhere close to Sean Couturier level. He's still good because where he's coming from is so high. Like he's one of the best two-way centers in the NHL. Sorry. So his high is so high that even if he's bad, he's still good. But I think we have to make note that when you're paying, nearly $7,000 or whatever for Sean Couturier, you're not paying for the Sean Couturier of last year. That it's a different player. So that's kind of what's keeping me a little away from Philly 1 here tonight. Is I'm just worried about the Couturier injury. And like, if people want to stack Philly 1, because it's a great spot, like there are no matchup concerns with New Jersey that I can see. Like there's nothing that would really worry me. And the fact of the matter is they used Couturier against the depth last night. That's the big thing to take away from the game last night against the Islanders is Couturier matched up mostly against what would be effectively the Islanders' third line with Pajot and Wahlstrom. Like it seems like the coaching staff has been using him as a shutdown center for years. And the fact that they're using him against third lines now, I think that's just another data point in favor. I mean, maybe they could just want to get him away from tough matchups, but I think it's just a data point in favor of him being injured. So, like, again, we don't like to talk and say these guys are injured, don't play them on the show, because it can really color the way you look at them. But I think you have to really need to keep in mind, like Austin Matthews up at 9K with his wrist injury. Do you want to pay nearly 7K for Sean Couturier with a hip injury? I'm probably out. And I'm going to wait to see what our ownership says on the second and third lines. Our ownership is, it's kind of wonky.
It just got updated like 2 minutes ago. So
okay, that's good to know. I see the update. Actually, I think it pushed Kevin Hayes even higher.
Yeah,
in ownership. So that was the thing coming into this slate, is I wanted to stack Philly too, but then I checked the ownership earlier, and Konechny and Hayes were both well over 20%, and on the latest run, they're both near 30%. So I think I'm going to dip down to Philly 3, Voracek and Giroux with Lindblom. Lindblom, I know he might seem like a third wheel, but I think he's a really good player. Like, he's probably a better defensive winger than he is an offensive player, and I'll fully admit that. But I think he's still playing with talented enough players that he can get something done. So I am in on that Philly 3 line, the Philly 3 ownership. They've been really good in a small sample. I mean, it's not a sample that's big enough to speak about, really. But 64% expected goal share in what would be about 3-4 games of ice time. So I'm in on Philly 3. On the New Jersey side, I do like some of the Devils here. Actually, I'm going to be in probably, like, we don't know what the lines are going to be. So this is assuming that this is what the line is going to be. I'm going to be in on Hughes, Bratt, and Palmieri. If Couturier is not going to be used in a shutdown matchup, there's no matchup from Philly that really scares me. Even with Lindblom playing with Giroux and Voracek, if that's a matchup, it still doesn't scare me that much. Lindblom's good, but he's not great, and the Flyers' defense has looked absolutely awful for the last couple of weeks now. So I really like Hughes and Bratt with Palmieri. I'm mainly going to be using Ty Smith on the blue line, but I don't have a problem with basically using any of him or Severson or Severson, or Subban. So that's probably where I'm going to go with the Devils: Hughes, Bratt, Palmieri. And with the Flyers, I have a ton of Hayes and Konechny right now. I'm going to wait to see if the ownership goes down at all. I don't suspect it will. So I'm going to move a lot of that probably to Philly 3, Giroux, Voracek, Lindblom.
I think there's no doubt Philadelphia is going to be one of, if not the chalkiest team on the slate, because they've got 3 playable lines. I think we're probably going to see the ownership tighten between the Giroux line and the Hayes line. So I don't think we're going to have Hayes projected at 30% or close to it. I think he's going to be more like 17, 18, and you'll see the Giroux, Voracek, Lindblom line come up a little bit, because right now they're only at like 2 or 3%. So maybe some kinks we're still working out there with the ownership as the day goes on. But I mean, I like Philly, but at these ownerships, especially with Couturier, you mentioned he's hurt. Like, I don't like to, be the anatomy tout on this game, but like a hip injury, like, I don't know, that doesn't really seem good for a hockey player. You mentioned the guys that have gone through that, and especially coming off a back-to-back, like, there's got to be a chance, like a non-zero chance, that he just doesn't play, or he warms up and he can't go.
That's the thing I should have mentioned too. Like, I think there's a realistic chance he just doesn't play at all. So
yeah. So I mean, it makes it even more difficult on the back-to-back. Maybe you get some unique lines if things get shuffled up, but them not going up against Hughes, Bratt, and Palmieri, if that's going to be a line, I think is very favorable to that Devils line that you mentioned. So I like that. I don't think I'm getting to a ton more on the Devils side. Maybe a filler line. That Zajac line has good offensive numbers, pretty terrible defensive numbers, but they're super high event, and they're cheap. So might get to some of them. On going back to the Flyers really quick, I like I don't think it's a third line, but Giroux, Voracek, and Lindblom. I think they're probably going to come in below 10% or around 10%, assuming people don't treat them actually as a third line. I mean, I hope they do, because then it's just more for us. But that's the line I think I'm most interested in tonight. Defenseman, you mentioned Ty Smith, 3,200, power play 1, quarterback. We're expecting some ownership on him, understandably so. And then on the Flyers side, I like Philippe Myers a little bit for 2,600. Probably going to play 18 to 20-ish minutes. That's going to be the guy I think I get to a little bit of, but not a whole lot to speak of on the Flyers blue line for me.
Yeah, I'm just mainly correlating the Flyers with the right lineups like Gostisbehere or Provorov. Like Gostisbehere is with the Hayes and Konechny and Couturier guys, and then Giroux and Voracek you'd be playing Provorov. Just one thing, just real quick, I wanted to mention the reason I said Hughes, Bratt, Palmieri. Hughes and Bratt this year, 151 minutes together, 2.9 expected goals for per 60, 58.7 expected goal share, and they're adding Kyle Palmieri, who's at worst a great second line scorer. So it's not that we're just throwing out a recommendation for the heck of, playing some Devils. It's that they've been good this year.
Yeah, I like it. So hopefully they stack up that line and they don't get Couturier. And I think that's a spot that's coming in at really reasonable ownership, especially on the last run. We're seeing the highest owned guy on that line at 9%, which is Palmieri. So I like that if they're going to be under double digits.
Yep.
And that's the only game that locks at 7 Eastern. So we got 4 more with a lot of uncertainty. So make sure you get those lines right. But if you're going to be playing a lot of lineups like I am, hopefully you don't have a social life and you can just swap for the rest of the night, because we got 2 more coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern, an 8:30 start, and then the Avs and the Yotes later at 10? Yeah, 10 Eastern. So the games are staggered at least after the first couple lock. So we've got that, and it's not Detroit on the staggered start. It's actually a couple good teams, Tampa and Dallas, Stanley Cup rematch there. So yeah, not gonna complain about the schedule tonight. Although I wish we just had some more information on the rest of these teams, like Florida and Chicago. 3.4 implied total for the Panthers, 2.8 for the Hawks. Chris Driedger and Kevin Lankinen are your goalies here. I don't know that we're expecting changes for the Panthers. They've been it's been kind of a revolving door on this top line with Barkov and Verhaeghe. So I'm playing it like it's Duclair right now. It could be Mason Marchment. It could be Frank Petrano we've seen up there. It could be Noel Acciari. I have no clue who they're going to have up on that top line. I think Duclair is a pretty good guess. The problem is if you go with him and it is Vetrano for whatever reason, that's a $300 difference. So we'll see. But what are you thinking on the Panther side? And then I have no clue what the Hawks are going to do. Like absolutely no clue besides Kane and DeBrincat probably going to play together.
Yeah. Okay. So with the Florida side, I think I'm just going to do what we've always done. I'm not as certain as other people might be that Duclair is on the top line. They've really, since Duclair's gotten back the last few games, they've really been giving him the short end of the stick. I think his first game back, he started on the 4th line, moved up to the top line, and then his last couple games, he started on the top line and eventually got moved back down. Since returning, he's played 12 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 16 minutes, 11 minutes. So they're really I understand wanting to play Duclair because he's probably going to start at least alongside Barkov, but it's a question of how many shifts he actually plays there. Do you want to play Duclair if he's gone by the 10-minute mark of the second period? You know what I mean? That's kind of the hard part with playing him. So that's why I'm mainly sticking with Verhaeghe. I'm just sticking Barkov, Verhaeghe, Huberdeau, Yandel, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Hornqvist, Ekblad, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Hornqvist, Huberdeau, Ekblad. I'm just sticking Verhaeghe with Barkov. I don't want to deal with that third wheel. For one thing, it's been productive, but not super productive, right? Duclair has 14 points in 24 games. That's a good season, but that works out to what? A little under 50 points in 82 games. That's not great. Mason Marchment, does he have a point yet? I'm sure he does, and I'm just being facetious here. He actually has no points in 5 games. Okay. So you know what I mean? That revolving top door you talked about just hasn't been super productive. So I don't feel bad about leaving that third wheel off. I feel fine about it. So I'm mainly focusing, like I said, Barkov or Hagee, and then Hornqvist and Huberdeau, Ekblad, Yandel, those 4 guys I'm rotating in with Barkov or Hagee. That's just kind of how I'm treating Florida. The Florida third line is kind of interesting to me. They've been decently well. And the third line here, I'm talking about Luostarinen, Tippett, and Vetrano. 1.9 expected goals for, positive expected goals share. They're going to see like the third and fourth lines from Chicago, which like there's nothing there. I don't know if I'd full out 3-man stack the Florida third line, but like Luostarinen and Tippett, like if you want a super cheap 2-man to fit in with your expensive Colorado PP stacks, I think that's completely fine. But I'm mostly focusing, like I said, on our typical Panthers Jill stacks. On the Hawks side, I'm building as if Dylan Strom's playing on the top line. That's the way I'm building my lineup. And the reason I'm doing that is kind of twofold. One, if he's, and the way I'm building it is I'm leaving Strome in the util. And the reason I'm doing that is because if it's not Strome with Kane and DeBrincat, I think it's probably just going to be David Kampf again. And Kampf is the same price on DraftKings. So you can easily make that swap, add lineup, just swap all your Strome over to David Kampf if you need to. The reason you need Strome in your utility is Strome is a winger, Kampf is a center. So you have to make sure you have your lineup set up properly, or else you're going to be stuck leaving somebody off the lineup. So that's what I'm doing with Chicago. I'm building as if Strome is on the top line, and if he's not, I'm just going to slide in Kampf, and I'm sticking mostly. I shouldn't say mostly with Bachfist. About half my Chicago lines right now have Bachfist. The other half have Connor Murphy. And the reason for that is Murphy's price is pretty reasonable at 3,700. Florida is one of the biggest shot taking teams in the NHL. I think they're fourth over the last month, or if it's not fourth, second over the last month, or over the last 4 weeks in shots per 60 minutes. And Connor Murphy's a shot blocking machine. So I think this is a spot for Connor Murphy to get some shot blocking in. So if you want to get away from Adam Bachfist, who might carry a lot of ownership with Chicago, I think Connor Murphy makes a nice pivot there.
Yeah, and this is the tough one if you're trying to make a ton of lineups. There's a lot of question marks on both sides. So I don't mind the call on adding Strome to your Chicago one stacks instead of Suter or Kampf, and then adjusting from there, or just 2-manning it. I think the more I look at the slate, the less confident I am that in like full stacks, just like getting the correct line combos with the way that this slate is set up. And so I think I'm going to have a bunch of 2-mans, or at least a portion of my lineups that are like 3-2-1 instead of like 3-3 or 4-3-1. And so what I'm considering doing is just putting all the Panthers top 6 guys on line 1, and then maybe making some rules in FC to where, like, if you play Duclair, you got to play Barkov. If you play Verhaeghe, you got to play Barkov, and then kind of just let that run however it does. Because I want to get some of Huberdeau and Hornquist. I want some of this Florida team. Like, I want Barkov and Verhaeghe, but I think you're going to have to get a little bit creative because of the Duclair situation. Florida 3 was a third line that I do have written down, so I'm going to get to some of them for sure against the Chicago depth. I think the line I'm probably stacking, like full stacking the most of is on the Chicago side is the Kampf, Kubalik, and Hagel line, just cheap. Kubalik, you've talked about him a bunch of times. We've got him at under 4% ownership. I think that's pretty good in a game that's probably going to have some scoring. I like Hagel a little bit for 2,700. He's playing on the top power play. At least on my sheet, he is. And so, yeah, Chicago's a mess. Florida is somewhat of a mess, but at least you've got Barkov. You know what you can do with Huberdeau and Hornquist. At least we kind of know the guys that we want to play there. We have really no idea what Chicago's going to do. So 2-mans, maybe stack like Kane and Boquist, Kane and Murphy, Kane to Brinkat Murphy. I think I'll have some of that kind of thing going on tonight. And my 150, by the way, DK increased their price point on the MME tournament. So you got to fork up what, 2250 if you want to max out that tournament instead of 1500. So I was hoping they wouldn't do that for NHL, but they have moved to that at least for tonight. So maybe they'll change it back. But yeah, I saw some of that talk on Twitter today, and I kind of agree. I wish they would kept it at the $10 price point. Do you play in that ever?
Well, I'll throw 20 lineups in sometimes, but I'll never max it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's an extra $750 now, going from the $10 to the $15. So I hope they don't keep that around, but every once in a while, I think that's fine. I'm sure some people in chat have some opinions on that as well. Anything to put a bow on this one? Any other defenseman? Dahan, maybe a block shot bonus guy, 3,300. You mentioned Murphy. I like that. I think he's very cheap on FanDuel too.
Yeah, I don't mind Dahan. The only problem for me is his minutes have kind of started to take a little bit of a beating. 17, 18 in his last 4. So that's kind of why I'm leaning more Murphy, but no problem with either.
Is it Gus Forsling night, or is he too expensive at 3,800?
I think we're still fine. He's playing enough minutes to support that price, right? That's the thing. It's not if he was playing 14 minutes, then I'd say no. But if he's going to play close to 20, like anywhere in that neighborhood, then yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yep, I am fine with it as well. Let's go to Detroit and Nashville. 2.5 implied total for the Red Wings, 3 for the Preds. We don't know goalies just yet in this game. I've got Greiss and Saros penciled in very light writing, could be easily erased. And then I saw Granlund is expected to return. I don't see him on the lineup builder just yet, but I'll get him in there if it looks like he's going to play. I would imagine he probably slots in Pitlick's spot, right, with Yarncroc and Arvidsson. Okay, yeah, you're nodding your head, so it sounds like that's what you got as well. But Nashville probably going to be pretty popular. I'm not seeing them ridiculously like Philadelphia Flyers level popular right now, but I think they're going to pick up some ownership, especially if there are 2 stackable lines with Granlund in there on that line too. So take this one where you'd like.
Yeah, the Nashville Predators official Twitter account said he should play, that Granlund should play. Now, we've had enough games this season to know that who should play and who shouldn't play doesn't really factor into anything once the warm-ups come. So them saying he should play doesn't really – just seeing him on the ice in a non-contact jersey with 1 game off told me that he was going to play. So whether he's in or not, them telling me he should play doesn't really sway my opinion anymore. But I love that Nashville second line tonight for that reason. Is I think a lot of people are just going to stay away from Granlund. Like there's still no real confirmation that he's in, right? And he's still carrying the tag on DraftKings. Maybe that goes away eventually. But, there's only 3.5 hours till the slate locks. So that's why I'm kind of going in on Nashville 3. I can't imagine that we have a ton of ownership on them. And they've actually played reasonably well together. But I think the biggest reason for using them here tonight is the matchup, right? They'll probably see a fair bit of that second line from Detroit. And that second, they'll see the middle 6 mostly. But the second line from neither line is really anything to worry about, the Detroit second or third line. But that Detroit second line is down near I have it written down 35.6 expected goal share. It's terrible. I think Nashville too, Calle Yarncroc, Michael Granlund, and Victor Arvidsson, who have been great in a very small sample, will just completely run them over. And it's not shocking that they've been great in a small sample either. Again, we have to let this, flesh itself out. But Granlund and Arvidsson have been good together. So the fact that you throw in Calle Yarncroc, who's a good two-way winger, and that they're still a good line, doesn't surprise me. So I think we see, I'm going to wait to see what all of our ownership says. We have the top line, Johansson, Tolvanen, and Forsberg is fairly highly owned right now, somewhere in the teens. We have the Yarncroc line quite a bit lower, under 5%. We'll see what I have to think that could be even lower, assuming people aren't in on Granlund, right? So yeah. I'm really big on Nashville. The question is really what to do with the Red Wings side, because our ownership on the Red Wings is pretty high. We have them as one of the 3 most owned lines on the slate with 2 Flyers lines. I imagine that might come down a bit, but people love to play, and you can speak to this. People love to play Dylan Larkin, especially but people love to play correlated lines, right? So anytime you can get correlated lines, I think people are going to play them. The problem with Detroit, one, Larkin is still PP2, but I think the fact that we have Fabry and Mantha on the same power play unit with a very cheap Dennis Cholowski is what's going to drive some ownership there. And I want to talk, like, we'll get to the defenseman in a bit. I think that's a downgrade on the blue line for that power play unit going from Juice to Cholowski. So that's kind of like another point against them. Like, I still don't understand where this ownership like is really coming from, other than maybe some game log warriors. Cause I know like Fabry had a big game a couple games ago. He has 5 goals in his last 5 games. So I assume that's where it's coming from. But for that reason, I'm out on Detroit. I'm in mostly on Nashville too.
Yeah, I think Detroit ownership is definitely going to come down. Probably closer to like 10% than 20. We've got Larkin and Mantha just because of the low total. I mean, I think when people do play Detroit, they will play Larkin and Mantha for the most part. You're not going to see much of anything on the Meskov line, or certainly not the Rasmussen line. So if you like a Detroit depth line tonight, you're not going to get lower ownership than this. It's not like Nashville's been super impressive for us, and like you can definitely target against them for DFS. So I'm fine playing some Larkin, Mantha, and Fabry, but it's probably going to be a bunch of Larkin, Mantha, 2-mans, and maybe leave off some Fabry. It's coming off the hat trick. Like, I don't know. I'm not a huge believer in this trio just yet. They've been fine, but I think it's probably just tough enough of a matchup where I don't feel great about them, especially if they're going to be one of the more popular fillers along with those Philadelphia 2 and 3 lines. A little surprised to see the ownership low on Johansson, Forsberg, and Tolvanen. But man, that has to come up too, I think. And so I'm going to gravitate, I think, to the second line with Granlund, Yarncroc, and Arvidsson. I like the Granlund-Arvidsson duo that you mentioned. Yarncroc's fine too. Like, he's not someone I intentionally leave off for 4,000, especially playing on a decent line and going up against that Detroit depth. So I think I'm on mostly the same page as you. For defensemen, I know he doesn't really do anything, but just pointing to a guy that I was getting to some, Troy Stetcher, 2,800, a guy that I'm going to punt with, I think, a little bit tonight. And then I like both Ekholm and is it Carrier or Carrier? I'm assuming it's Carrier based on his Alexander spelling.
I'm pretty sure it's Alexandre Carrier. Okay,
Carrier. We've got him projected for low ownership. Ekholm, I think his ownership projection is broken as well. So 5,700. I would imagine he gets up into the double digits. So we'll see where he lands. But Ekholm right now, my highest owned guy on the slate. Any position, that is. I feel pretty good about him, even though a little worried about playing the Nashville 1 plus Ekholm foursome. I think that's going to be more popular than what we're showing right now. Anyone else you want to mention here?
Yeah, I just want to mention the Nashville penalty kill is something that I think can be taken advantage of, but I don't know where you take advantage of it from Detroit. Like, the Nashville penalty kill has been atrocious since the Ryan Ellis injury. 29th by expected goals against, 26th by actual goals against. Like, terrible since his injury. I just don't know where you take advantage of it from Detroit. Like, am I going to start do I have to roster Michael Rasmussen? Is it Adam Ernie night again? Like, is Adam Ernie popping a couple Genos? Like, I think that something like that kind of makes sense. Like, playing one-off Gagne or one-off, Bobby Ryan or something like that. If you want to try to take advantage of a terrible Nashville penalty kill, but you don't feel good about stacking Detroit depth, I have no problem one-offing somebody like Bobby Ryan to try to, get that power play goal. But I'm pretty tepid on Detroit as a whole here tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned Gagne and Ryan, both 3,800. If you get to those guys as one-offs in a portion of your lineups, that's fine. I don't have any issue with that. Those guys at least have decent shot rates, even though they're playing on some pretty dusty lines right now. All right, I think we're good on that one. Haven't mentioned the free premium content for today. We've got the NHL projections. So if you are not a premium member, but you want to see what's behind the paywall, at least one tool, NHL projections are going to be available for everyone today. NBA projections as well. So if we're playing some NBA, we got a ton of shows coming up after this. Our normal 3 hours of before lock content, as well as the late slate tonight. I believe that's at 8 or 9 Eastern, 8 my time. Also, PGA ownership projections. We had a PGA strategy show this afternoon. We had a first look show yesterday. We've got a bunch of short form videos coming out as well. But if you want to get a peek at the ownership projections for the match play, we've got that unlocked for anyone who wants to see it. All right, let's go to Tampa and Dallas. We've got a 3 implied total for the Lightning, 2.4 for the Stars, Vasilevsky and Anton Khudobin. By the way, can you hear that, like, whatever's going on outside? Is that getting picked up on my mic?
No, I can't hear anything. Some construction going on?
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. I think someone's like mowing their lawn, but I'm in Minnesota and it's not even April yet. So I don't know what that would be. But okay, if you can't hear it, then we're all good. Stars Lightning, what do you like in this one? 8:30 p.m. Eastern start.
Yeah, so the first thing to mention is that Kiviranta is out. Looks like he's going to be out for a while. And Ty Dellandrea is expected to skate on the top line with Jamie Benn and Joe Pavelski. This is where we throw in the caveat of game time decisions, because as like Rope Hintz skated this morning for Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. Alex Radulov did not. That would at least kind of indicate to me that Radulov probably isn't playing tonight and that Hintz probably is. But, you know, the coach said, and we've seen it play out over the last few weeks, Hintz and Radulov are game time decisions every single game. So you can make your lineups with them in or out right now. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be in or out in 4 hours time. And that's kind of the problem here, is that when that game starts, it's one of the last games of the slate, right? There's only one more game to start after them. So if you're stuck with a scratched Rope Hintz, you know, you're probably going to have to dip down to somebody on the same line or on the same team, maybe like a Jason Dickinson or something like that. There just really isn't a lot that you can do, or, you know, just swap over, you know, to Arizona completely or something like that. There just really isn't a lot to do if you have a bunch of Hintz in your lineups and you get to that game and Hintz isn't playing. So just be aware that, like, if Hintz was playing tonight with Guryanov, I'd probably have a little bit of interest, but it's not like I know it's a 5-game slate and we have to talk about all the teams and all the lines, and all the teams have some level of interest because the slate is so short. But there's, outside of Colorado, these are probably the 2 best defensive teams in hockey, right? Like, right up at the top, like both in the top 5 for sure. And Dallas takes a ton of penalties, but Tampa Bay, like, they've been good on the power play, but like they haven't been super elite on the power play as of late anyways. Like, still top 5, just not like, you know, blowing the doors off like Florida was earlier in the year. So like it just seems like a tough matchup. Like, the top line for Tampa Bay is going to see the Radek Faksa line for the entire game, and that takes Point, Killorn, and Stamkos completely out of the running for me. I don't want to say it takes
real quick. Isn't Faksa a game time decision?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes, he is.
But you're expecting him to play?
I'm expecting him to play, but that's another. Here we go again.
Yeah.
That's another
fun one. Yeah.
Like, if I knew he was out, I would definitely be in on the Tampa top line. They'd probably be my highest exposed line. Actually, like, I don't want to say that my whole slate hinges on one guy, but it does kind of hinge on one line. Like, it is a really good shutdown line Dallas has, one of the best in hockey. So, like, you know, that would push me down to like Tampa 2, Johnson, Cirelli, Palat. But you're not really getting into good matchups when you're facing Ben Pavelski and Dellandrea or something like that. Like, those are still good lines. So, like, I don't really have a lot from this game, believe it or not. Like, either side from the forwards, I just don't have a ton. Like, I'm not a believer in Tyler Johnson. Like, I don't think Tyler Johnson's very good. I think he's like I don't want to say his career's winding down, but there's something going on. Like, we mentioned it before, he didn't even make this roster out of camp. He was sent to the AHL. He was put on waivers, right? Like, this is not a guy that they think too highly of. Cirelli, he's a wonderful defensive center, but he's not quite the top end offensive center that Braden Point is yet. And then Andre Palat on the other side. So, like, I guess if you want to go down to Tampa 3, I have no problem going to Tampa 3 tonight, but Tampa 1, I think, is in a terrible matchup. Tampa 2, I don't think is a great line combination, and that pushes me down to Tampa 3. So if you want to put in Tampa 3 with your Colorados or whatever, I think that's fine, but I'm probably out. And yeah, I'm going to be out mostly on Dallas. The one thing I will mention on Dallas, if Radulov plays, that line is within $1,000 of Tampa Bay's line. So if you can leave yourself a little bit of slack on the blue line with a defenseman or something like that, you can stack Ben Pavelski, Radulov, and if Radulov is out, you can just switch it over to the Lightning. So that's one possibility. But honestly, I just don't want to deal with the Stars here tonight in a terrible matchup, and the Lightning are in a terrible matchup of their own. So I really don't have much for forwards here. I have some interest in like one-offing some of their power play guys, like one-off a Palat. If you want to one-off a Stamkos in case that power play does go nuts, that's fine, but that's probably about it for me.
Oh, we got a nice message here in YouTube chat. He says, Kevin says, you guys are a great resource. I won the 333 DK on Saturday night. So that's probably either 10 or 20K. So congrats to that. Last night, top 4 finish. So just raking Kevin is, it looks like. He says, let me know what social media love I can give you. Yeah, we have an account called at Awesemo NHL. And that's some more good free, another good free resource, including the show and the YouTube channel for all our other sports. So if you want to go give us a shout out there, feel free. That's pretty impressive. A couple top 4 finishes with a win in the last few days. So that is not easy to do at high stakes. So congrats to you. Thank you for the kind words as always. Back to this game. You mentioned it, man. Like it's really ugly. And even if we knew who was going to play, if this were any bigger of a slate, I'd probably just cross this one off. I think it's more than likely going to be a defensive battle. But if there's no hints, if there's no Radulov, and maybe most importantly, if there's no Faxa, like you can make a pretty good case for Tampa. 3 implied total. They're fully correlated top line. And it's like, well, their top line is just not going to be at the same ownership as like, Kane and DeBrincat, Barkov. Like I think Philly one's going to probably be higher than them as well, just based on their total and price alone. And they're probably going to get squeezed out of the Colorado one range as well. So I think I'm a little bit higher on Tampa than you. I hate that Dallas doesn't take a lot of penalties, but when they do take penalties, they've been pretty bad at killing them off. We know that Tampa has a pretty good power play. In fact, what are they at this year? Okay, they're at 28.6. I would have said top 10, but they're second right now for the season. So maybe you take some stabs at Tampa 1 at reasonable ownership plus Hedman if you can afford it. You're not getting to Colorado 1 if you click those 4 guys in. So that's another thing. It's one or the other with Tampa, and they're just not in as good of a spot, but the ownership is bringing me a little bit over to them. I also like the third line. I mentioned a couple of times I'm doing some 3-2-1s, so I think I'll get to some Yanni Gourde, Blake Coleman 2-mans. They've priced them up a little bit for the first time in forever on DK in like maybe one of the worst spots of their season. So they're $9K to stack together. That's not the end of the world. Still do like getting to them a little bit. And then Dallas, you could just be like completely screwed if it is Radulov in and you have Dellandrea. Like that's a huge price difference. You could swap from Hintz down to Dickinson. Maybe he plays with Gurianov and Robertson again. That's what happened last game. I don't know, man. I think the Dallas side is more tilting to me, but Tampa takes a ton of penalties. So, maybe you want to just power play stack their good players and swap down if you need to. I don't know. I think I'm more interested in the Tampa side though, even considering they're getting a little bit more ownership on their top line. But
I think that's a good point. I think either side, either way here in this game, I'd probably power play stack some sort. I think, Tampa's been drawing a lot of penalties lately. If you look at their time on ice per game played, top 4th over the last month. And that's despite them scoring a ton of goals. Like he talked about how good their power play's been. Like that's the time is cut short from them scoring goals, and they're still top 4 by time on ice per game at 5-on-4 in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I think if you're going to go with Tampa or Dallas, I think the only way you can do it is power play stack, because there could be, especially on the Dallas side, there could be changes coming.
Yeah. Chernak 3,700 and Alexiak. Are they options for you in the 3 to 4K range on DK?
Oh yeah, the big rig Alexiak is always in range for me. I love that guy, man. Like, you know why I like that guy is because he was kind of pigeonholed as a certain type of defenseman, and he's completely changed his game over the last 2 or 3 years. And I really root for players like that, guys that revolutionize themselves so that they can stick around and keep playing longer. I have a lot of respect for guys like that. So I'll keep playing Alexiak. I love that guy.
Yeah, I like it a lot for 3,100. So he's going to see his 20 minutes. He's probably going to, have some chances at block shot bonuses here and there. Underdogs, maybe they see a few more shots, and he's got some extra opportunities there. And then he's got a little bit of offensive game as well. So he doesn't play on the power play, and that usually scares some people off of him. But this is the price where you want to play a bunch of them, I think, on a 5-game slate where you might need some salary relief if you're going to play some good skaters in this next game that we're going to talk about. Colorado, Arizona, 3.4 implied total for the Avs, 2.1 for the Yotes. Maybe Jonas Johansson, who got a pretty rousing endorsement from Kevin Weeks the other day. I'm sure you saw that. Aiden Hill, probably going for the Yotes after it was Ranta last night. These two teams played just 24 hours ago. So at least we have a pretty good idea of how matchups are going to go. Maybe Arizona tries to switch things up. I think we both are hoping, though, that Schmaltz, Garland, and Keller remain together and on that top power play. But how are you attacking this one? I feel like you got some hot takes coming here. We haven't talked about this one yet.
I wanted to bring up that quote. I actually wanted to read it because it's a really good quote. This is Kevin Weeks. He's a former NHL goalie himself, now an NHL reporter. He said, this is when Jonas Johansson was getting traded from Buffalo to Colorado. Jonas Johansson is likely going to Colorado, according to Kevin Weeks. Oh, sorry. That was what the Buffalo reporter said.
Yeah.
The Buffalo reporter said, I can say without hesitation that the Avs are getting the worst goalie I've seen during my 19 seasons covering the Sabres. And there have been some bad Sabres teams there for the last decade. So he's not throwing that out very lightly. Now, I would think that the Colorado Avalanche would give Grubauer a little bit of rest because, Colorado can cruise to a playoff spot, right? But they're in a fight with Vegas for the top seed. And top seed, I don't know. It depends how they view it, whether it's important or not. It'd be the difference between playing St. Louis or playing Minnesota in all likelihood, whether or not Los Angeles gets it. Anyways. Jonas Johansson might be going, and that's what is getting me back to Arizona 1, is that he is a very bad goalie. And Arizona 1, at the very least, it is a back-to-back. We don't have confirmed line combinations, but all the lines stayed together through the entire game last night. So, we have a pretty good bet that Keller, Schmaltz, and Garland are going to stay together. As far as line matching in the game goes against them, it doesn't really matter. I know Arizona likes to use their top line against the depth, but all of Colorado's 3 lines are pretty good defensively. So it's not like there's a great matchup here, but I'm just going right back to the Arizona top line because I'm not a believer in Jonas Johansson at all. And I don't think Arizona needs 30 shots to pop 3 or 4 goals here tonight on this goalie. So I am back in on Arizona 1, especially where they're all perfectly correlated. You can play Chychrun if you want with them or not. I am not playing a ton of Chychrun here tonight just because of that Colorado penalty kill. I'm wondering on the Colorado side how much ownership there's going to be on their second line, because that price has come up quite a bit, right? Their second line is almost $16K now. Mm-hmm. That is a very expensive second line where only one guy is getting any meaningful power play minutes, right? So, they're almost priced as a pseudo top line, which kind of scares me, right? It's expensive for a top line. The one thing I will say is that let's assume this is kind of a blowout for the Colorado side, or let's say Colorado wins this game by 4 or 5 goals or something like that. The second and third liners are going to get more ice time than they normally would. Just look at the game last night, right? McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, I think they all played under 19 minutes. For sure, they are all under 20. Like the ice time gets spread around when you play the bad teams, and that's what makes the lower owned players or the players lower in the lineup a bit more appealing. So I do, even though they're priced pretty expensive, I do have interest in Colorado too. I think I have one of them in my 20 lineups, and I even have interest in Colorado 3.
Yes.
Donskoy, Jost, and Nichushkin. I think it makes a perfect complement for a Colorado onslaught, honestly. So stack the top line with a couple guys off the third line, throw in McCarr and go about your day type thing. So that's kind of where I am with Colorado. I love the top line here tonight. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking there. I'm pretty sure everybody loves the top line here tonight. But I do like sneaking in that third line with a Colorado onslaught. So Donskoy and Nichushkin with the top line, or Donskoy and Jost, whatever you want to do. On the Arizona side, like I said, it's just back to Arizona 1 for me, and that's about it.
That's about it for me as well on the Arizona side. Arizona 1, I think they are a very good play tonight, though, especially with the backup goaltender in there. Without Grubauer, they've really struggled. The Colorado has just stopping pucks, even though they're not allowing that many shots. So I think Johansson is pretty tough to play here. Like, you could correlate him with Colorado 1, but then you enjoy your three $2,500 forwards that you're going to play. Because Colorado 1's $24K tonight on DraftKings. Throw in McCarr, you're really struggling. You got $4,160 remaining for 3 forward spots and a defenseman and a goalie. So,
can I just say one counterpoint to that, though?
Sure.
How many people do you think are actually going to play Johansson, though? Like, how many people are going to put an 8,100 goalie that's not confirmed on the last game of the night?
I think a lot of people use optimizers, so I think he'll get popped in there quite a bit. Like, so we've got him at 7.8%. I know the ownership's been wonky, but 7.8% right now. Like, I think that's pretty fair. I think he ends up somewhere between 6 and 10%.
If you can't tell, I'm trying to talk myself into playing Jonas Johansson tonight.
I mean, they're just not allowing a ton of volume. Do you think the volume's going to be there?
That's the thing. It's shutout or bust if he plays, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe on the back-to-back, like, maybe they're a little bit more lackadaisical defense. I'm trying to talk myself into this guy. I don't know. It sounds like he's pretty bad just from like a hockey standpoint, but that has not ever stopped me from playing goalies before. And it not stopped me tonight.
Just look at Gustafsson last night, right?
Heck yeah.
Gustafsson for us, baby.
Yeah, he was good. Good for DFS. You just need him to be good tonight. You don't need him to be good for the next 10 years. So
right.
You got to remind yourself that. I love what you said about Colorado 3. I am right there with you. I hope the lack of power play time gets people off of them. And then Colorado 2, just really good 5-on-5 numbers. Prices come up. I think this is a pretty sneaky spot to slam them a little bit. You don't need to get too much to get over the field. When people go to Colorado, they like to go to the top line, and so do I. But I think I'm going to be dipping down to that second and third line very often tonight. So hopefully this slate is not over by the time we get to this game. This is one of the ones I feel the best about in terms of lines and, just who's playing and like how I feel about the matchups. So Arizona 1
back-to-back.
Yeah. I say that, and then probably Taze McCarr and Sam Girard will probably already be all be scratched or something. They'll just throw this one. But yeah, not a whole lot to speak of on the Arizona side besides that top line plus Chychrun, if you want to go there for 5,900. Someone said something about anytime delivery says it almost seems like the NHL ownership projections are being done by someone that spends all their time on NBA DFS. I think he's referring to Alex, poking some fun at him. Hey, you're talking about a guy who's got a live final seat this year. So Alex won his first NHL one. And so, hey, you got to take that back. I mean, this guy grinds some NHL. He hasn't been playing every slate, but he's been playing quite a few. And if you remember the Jason Spezza night.
It's hard to forget the Jason Spezza night.
Yeah. Jason Spezza with, I think, a full Colorado or a full Toronto stack. But anyways, he does play some NHL. We'll get those ownership projections fixed after the show. I will be uploading projections again. Those are going to be free. So those will get continued. Those will be continued to be updated. Easy for me to say. Anything else before we wrap this one up? You got a hat trick pick before we get out of here?
Yeah, my hat trick pick for tonight is going to be Dominic Kubalik.
Nice. I will take. Let me see here. I think I like Kyle Palmieri. $4,900 for him. So hoping that's the case. Good luck tonight, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Hit us with a subscribe and like on the way out, and make sure you tune into the NBA shows coming up in just a few minutes. See you in 24 hours.